Hello, everyone, and thank you all for coming. Welcome to The Pillars. We are a community led space aimed at supporting projects and educating our investors for intelligent, meaningful conversation. Here we ask the tough questions you all want answered. Now, let me introduce to you two people that we already had on in the past. One of those is basically already living in here. It's his second home here in the Pillars. It's AJ Brockman from SparkSwap, EMP, L1 Dex. And of course, we also have as a first time returning guest, Jake, CEO from Dex Finance and also involved in L1 Dex. And today we are talking about something that is for me personally very very exciting, and I think you also gonna love it. We're going to focus today on the Dex vaults, and specifically also the partnership with SparkSwap, because they are also now SparkSwap also supporting vaults. Now they have partnered up. I mean, Dex Finance and SparkSwap in general have a very close relationship, and these are like two incredible teams that are working together and creating incredible stuff in the space. And the Dex Vaults, for people that don't know about them, Dex Vaults is an automated investment strategy specifically for yield farms, where you can automate different kind of yield farming protocols. You can have multiple yield farms together that are rebalancing. There's a lot to it. It sounds now, if I'm just throwing out there like that, it sounds a bit it sounds complicated, but actually it's quite easy to understand, and it's also very very accessible for investors, which I personally think is very very great. But I just want to let the guys do the talking, and I'm going to jump off the stage now, and I hope everyone enjoys. And don't forget to ask your questions in the community questions channel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Great intro, although I have to correct one thing. Two have actually become one now. These two powerhouses have combined their powers and smarts to become one team, as far as I understand it now. So it makes the SparkSwap, EMP, and Dex Finance offerings even more powerful and fun to talk about, in my opinion. Is that right, guys? Have I got that one right?
Yeah, no, 100%. We've always had this mutual admiration for each other in terms of protocols and development. I can speak for Jake on that side as well. Both of us started as Tomb Forks, funny enough. And we always wanted to work together, and really the ball started rolling with L1 Dex. And that really kind of, we came together on that. We knew we needed to bring in additional help, and we just worked so well together. And again, with SparkSwap, now we've essentially merged. And yeah, Birdie's going crazy in the background. Sorry, guys. But yeah, Jake, I don't know if you want to speak on that, but
Yeah, no, everything you said is true for sure. In this space, it's really hard to do everything. Jack of all trades, master of none, right? Like,
Mhm.
our team is really focused on building. We have a really large dev team, some really good skilled position kind of guys, and AJ has really pioneered the space with education and AMAs like this and marketing. So just the combined effort just really makes the entirety better as a whole.
Well, thank you very much for coming, gentlemen. Jake, in particular, it's the second time, as David said, that you're here, and I'm very keen to speak to yourself about all of this and the process. One of the things that I think is great about speaking to AJ and bringing him in is we've kind of moved now past what used to be the basis of these typical, although it was never really the case with AJ, EMP or SparkSwap. We've moved past what is typically a train of questioning that happens here at the Pillars, which is, you'll get a DeFi project. There'll be some holes that you want to try and find, and you want to kind of see where it is that people might be trying to, not trick investors, but where they might be trying to gain as much as they can from investors, and perhaps where the shelf life is. And what's really good about speaking on SparkSwap and the vaults, of course, that we're going to speak on in a minute, is that isn't the case anymore. I think actually the team here have really moved past that, and like you say, they're pioneering in this space and really trying to lead by example, which I think is fantastic, and it's a rarity. So it makes these kind of conversations a lot harder for me, but also far more interesting, because trying to get some kind of angle to find out where things might be able to go wrong and therefore create that interesting conversation gets a lot harder. So I wanted to start with you, Jake, in terms of the transition from having your own thing through to moving into working alongside AJ. You speak on admiration. What else was formed part of that decision making for you?
Well, I mean, like I said, it started almost as out of a need, right? We had great products. We needed exposure. AJ has an amazing community and more help in that department. Connections in the space, and he needed some help with development, right? So it really just kind of fit like a glove right off the bat. But I'll tell you what actually has bolstered that, and the reason why we work so closely together now is really just the interactions that we have. It's really difficult in this space, and AJ and I both, honestly, any project owner who's been in this space more than a year knows that people come in your chats, your discords, and your telegrams on a daily basis, and hey, you want to partner for this? You want to partner for this? And the term gets thrown around way too loosely. A partnership to most people is like, let's link swap and do announcements together, but like just with no substance. And one of the things that we've really gelled on is almost on a daily basis, like something will come up and like we'll both say like the same answer, like because we're both of the right, the same kind of headspace. We're both, we both want to do right by the communities. We want to build and innovate. So like the decisions, never come down to a headway where it's an issue. It's just like-minded individuals that are built, working to build the best thing for the community and for DeFi.
Right, great, and I think I love that. I love that. Obviously, you're following in AJ's footsteps in that respect, and you've bought into that ethos, and you guys are working off the same page. I think that's something that is, like you say, rare in this space, and when you can find someone that is doing it in a way that you very much appreciate, the symmetry there can create really big things. One of the interesting things that I picked up on the tutorial that you did, and for anybody that's asking questions on what Dex Finance is and what they're doing in terms of the vaults and for SparkSwap, we're going to get into that shortly. I very much recommend you go check out the EMP YouTube page and look at the tutorial, because it is extremely thorough, and it made my job even harder in trying to find those questions. But one of the things you said, which I thought was great, is that through your data analysis in tracking what investors do and how investors might behave when it comes to jumping into something like your vaults, is that it actually makes them far less volatile in terms of their behavior as and when token might be going down. And it's interesting when it comes to something that is at the moment inflationary or has inflationary pressure, is that there can be people, if they see a stark drop in that token price, might freak out and decide they want to sell. They might make a loss. It's bad for their bags. They end up jumping back in. You guys, in the way you've created the vaults, especially for SparkSwap, are trying to mitigate against that, take the emotion out of it. How much of that was at the forefront of your mind when you were creating these, or was it just something that you noticed as you were creating these, as you were building them out, you started to realize actually this is having a really positive effect on investor behavior?
Yeah, great question. We a little bit of both. So the original kind of concept for these multi-farm vaults kind of came actually from both of our AJ and I both kind of came from the Tomb Fork era, and the idea was kind of developed in that like these Tomb Forks have they're multi-token systems, right? And in order for them to really work, it's kind of like this thing where you got to get the community all row in the same direction, right? Which is it's kind of that's worked itself out. We all know that it's not possible to a certain degree, but we did realize that right off the bat that if you kind of give people an option or a way to just invest their money where the contracts can help move it for you, and take a little of the everyone will agree you can't just hold your money forever. So the responsible way is like take a little bit out, compound some back in, and we all win, we all get better for that. So that that kind of concept definitely came out early, And yeah, of course, we've definitely tried to expand on that and figure out the best ways for people to safely remove a profit. Honestly, that's one of the biggest things in crypto. Like, how many people do you know that have said, "Oh, I made $1 million last bull run, right? But I lost 700K because I didn't sell, right?" Like,
Right.
this really just takes all the guesswork out of it. Before you, like, I came from a traditional finance background. I traded U.S. Treasuries at the Chicago Board of Trade for many years, and everyone always, the if you just go in blindly and you just start, flailing your arms, like, you're just at so much more risk than if you have a plan going into it.
Right.
So basically, what the vaults do is, when you're making an investment, it's not like you take the emotion out, like you said. It's not like, I'm just going to ape right now, and then when it gets to 2x, I'm going to sell this. Right? You go in and you say, okay, I like this project. I'm going to invest in this business, in this model, this company, these LPs, and right off the bat, you say, okay, this is what I'm willing to spend on it. This is my risk tolerance. This is how much I want to add in. Like, if you want to add in stable tokens as well, right? So it's always, a third of, whatever allocation you decide on is stable coins versus, more high risk volatile assets. And then additionally, you set your take profit so that, literally every compound, every harvest, it'll just does that for you. It says, okay, you want to be 30% stable, you want to be 70% volatile. Boom, there you go. And then on top of all that, I want to be 50% in profit at the end of this. Just every harvest, I'm going to put 50% on the side, so you can just accumulate on the side and not have to worry about when you're going to sell. Ultimately, that's worked out, to like the end result. Let's say is that people are definitely less inclined to sell their original position because if the market's on a downturn, they look back and they say, oh well, yeah, my LPs maybe fading a little bit, but I do have half my value already stacked up in Ethereum, blue chips,
Right.
on the side.
And also compounding as they
Right.
go too, and
Exactly.
I love the fact that it's risk reducing. And AJ, before we do get into the particulars of the vaults, from your point of view,
Absolutely.
it's a really smart move to bring something in that can reduce that risk. Because when we first spoke about SparkSwap, I know one of the big things was inflation that kept coming up, and you've always said, this firstly, this is chess, not checkers, and secondly, there's a method to the madness. Just trust us. Yes, the token is going to fluctuate, but as we've seen, when positive movement, for example, the recent movement on Pulse happens, it filters into Spark. But how clever to, I suppose, bring something in that is inherently going to help people reduce their risk and not trade emotionally. Was that your intention when you were looking at this as an option for SparkSwap?
Absolutely, MadHatter. I mean, you again hit the nail on the head, and Jake just did an incredible job, explaining the benefit to the investor. But I want to speak a little bit about the benefit to the protocol. And these auto vaults are extremely powerful, but they become even more powerful when you actually are the owner of the DEX. And I think that was the aha moment for us as a team because not only are these vaults yield producing machines, but they're also volume producing machines. And you can see in the chart, again, I'm a big believer that numbers don't lie. We basically tripled our volume the day that the vault went live. And because we are not a DEX that just the dev fee from all the swaps and puts it in our pocket, we actually reward our not only our stakers in Sparkler, but part of the way the rewards work is it's buying Spark and PLS half and half off the market. So indirectly or directly, it's actually buying Spark as well. And that again is revolutionary in terms of having it on both sides, meaning not only are we profiting from the fees of the vault, which again are very minimal, and actually even when you account for the fees, you're still able to produce way more yield than if you were trying to compound on your own when you calculate gas fees and the time it takes to do it. But we're also getting all the volume and therefore all the fees from that additional volume that support the protocol. So again, man, it was just a match made in heaven, and those are the kind of things that we we think about. Like and Jake mentioned it earlier, which I think is great. Like everybody, says partnership this, partnership that, but when you actually have a working relationship where the benefits are a win-win for both parties, that is a true partnership, and that's absolutely what we exemplify together. And honestly, it makes our team, now that we're one team, makes us all stronger. But even if we were a separate team, it helps DexFi, it helps Spark, it helps Fusion when we are ready for Fusion. I mean, literally every part of the ecosystem benefits from what we're building.
Right. Yes, and the proof is in the pudding, as you always say. I mean, one of the things that was very noticeable when this launched is that I think you had a 50% or so, maybe just under 50% rise in the price of Spark, just from all of the buys that were happening through launching your vaults. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, you can see on the chart, and obviously, when there's a bit of buy the rumor, sell the news. Obviously, we spiked up a little bit. And now it's Pulse also was down over the last few weeks. We're finally seeing a great pump now, and as we've said all along, because we're liquidity bonded essentially with Pulse. Um, the charts are very, very similar, and that helps. I mean, again, Jake said it earlier as well. Like you'd be a millionaire on paper, but if you don't have any liquidity to actually realize those gains,
Right.
or use the vault to automatically help you realize those gains in a responsible manner, it doesn't matter. And we are the number 6 most liquid token on all of Pulse even today. Which again, the only more liquid tokens above us are the Richard Hart token. So we're about $3 million in total liquidity on Spark as well. So all the metrics have just been great. And one thing too, which I'm sure we'll get into, MadHatter, is the way that you're able to take profit in the vaults are the ETFs, and that alone also helps stabilize the price of Spark, because not all the rewards are being dumped every day. Not even considering Sparkler, which again is a major deterrent to the inflation that you spoke about. So yeah, we're thinking 10 steps ahead for sure.
Right.
I'll
Great.
actually,
Thank you.
I'll actually expand on that real quick if you got a second.
Please do. Of course. Yeah, it's your floor.
AJ brings up a good point. He mentioned that not all the rewards are sold. Obviously, some are bought back in the process of converting your take profit into ETFs, right? But
Mhm.
even further than that, and this is something that's actually super bullish that I don't think we've actually even covered yet anywhere. But the over time, right? So the way the ETFs work, they're non-custodial. It's all in the contract, and the actual tokens sit within those contracts. But they also auto balance as well. So, put it this way: if let's say, just for easy numbers, if there's $100 in an ETF and it's split 50-50, right? Essentially there's $50 of one ETF, there's $50 dollar value of one token, and then $50 the other one, right?
Mhm.
So now if for example Spark happens to slide a little bit, right? And let's say the other token in there is ETH and it's bull run and it's pumping. Now the ETH dollar value goes up. So now next time it rebalances, it's going to buy more Spark to match that price, and that part maybe is known, but I guess the effects that we haven't really seen, I forget off the top of my head, maybe 20 grand or so like that in ETFs just sitting there.
Mhm.
But like that's just over the first week or two, right? In profit. But as there's more TVL in those ETFs, right? Instead of $100 being rebalanced every hour or whatever for the harvest, now let's say it's 10,000, rebalancing, or 100,000 rebalancing. So now if it gets to 100,000, let's say, now there's 50,000 of each, right? So each time it rebalances, if it's off 1%, it's going to buy $1,000 worth of Spark every time, and so
Right.
on and so forth. It's cumulative. It causes that forced appreciation.
Now,
100%. Yeah.
sorry, AJ, go on. After you.
Yeah, no, absolutely, bro. I was just gonna reiterate that again. It is a scaling metric where and again, that's the beautiful part is as volume increases in both the DEX and as TVL increases in the vault, we see exponential growth because of exactly what Jake explained.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. And to a lot of people, that might be a lot of numbers and a lot of figures, and they might just dial into one or two aspects of that, and some stuff might get lost. So I wanted to preface why the vaults are so bullish for SparkSwap. Now I want, if you don't mind, a bit of an overview as to what the vaults are and what they actually do, just on a very basic level. If somebody wants to jump into one, why should they? Why would they choose that over a native farm, in your opinion? And how does it work, just kind of in terms of its basics form?
Yeah, I'll let Jake handle that one again. The vaults are his baby, again, just to preface that a little bit, Jake gets all the credit with the vaults, and we've just been lucky enough to convert that tech, over to SparkSwap. But yeah, go ahead, Jake. This is your bread and butter, man. So go ahead.
Yeah, another good one. Honestly, I could ramble on for a while about this one. There's a lot of different kind of cool features, but I guess at the core, a lot of it has to do with ease of use, right? Let's start there, I guess, right? So,
Mhm.
like I'll take me for example, right? I was in SparkSwap for a while. I have maybe 3 or 4 different LPs. Every time you want to every time you get rewards, every time you want to start a new farm, you got to go, press buttons and approve transactions and find the right allocations and move stuff around, right? So off the top, like I just right off the bat, I just took my 3 or 4 farms, put it in one vault, because that's already kind of the allocations and the risk levels that I wanted. So I just put it all in a vault, and now the system does all that for me, right? So
Mhm.
it's ease of use, and also you can one-click deposit. You can just zap into a multitude of different farms at the same time. All that's great just for adoption, for ease of use, right? You know, uh, just to start with. But what
The,
really makes
the ease of use and the modular aspect of what the vaults are, I think, is fantastic. I think we'll get into the ease of use, not just in what you guys display, because gross versus net APY, for example, people can take a look at that. So you guys factored in gas and any other fees that might be taken off, so they can have a true figure on what they're going to get, both yearly and daily, which I think is unheard of in terms of most vaults. But I suppose let's start with the fact that you outperform, I think, by 10% most other auto compounding vaults. How do you guys manage to do that?
Yeah, so again, past ease of use, they are just a really powerful tool. And I know this because probably like you guys, we have a bunch of nerds in our groups that really wanted to put it to the test. So what we did was we went back and analyzed data and put all the numbers into dozens and dozens of spreadsheets. And basically what happens in these vaults, right, is there's auto balancing happens, takes place on every harvest, right? So I kind of explained how that would work with the ETFs, but the same thing happens within the vaults, right? So again, just for easy numbers, let's say you have the same numbers. You have two farms in a vault. They're both 50-50 allocation, right? The volatile tokens, they're going to go up and down, right? So if a volatile asset goes lower, right, it's going to claim all those rewards every harvest, and it's going to buy the lower value asset to keep the ratios even, right? And this isn't a new concept, right? Like, hedge fund managers, like the people in real finance, they do this all the time. Balancing out your portfolio, basically buying dips when you have an asset that you like that you think is gonna recover, right? So that
Mhm.
when it does recover, you're gonna have more of those. You're gonna accumulate more tokens, so your gains are bigger, right? And then again, on the flip side, when an asset is too high, you're selling the tops. You're buying troughs and selling the peaks. Like I said, we were able to back to test this with raw data, and basically just by this auto balancing feature, we were able to outperform any leading out yield aggregator that we found to date, by at least 7%.
Which is huge. I mean, 7% is pretty massive, if
Yeah,
you think about it. And
for doing nothing.
your ability to compound versus take profit, even that is modular. So people can decide. And again, we'll get into the fact that people can create their own vaults if they wish, but actually there's a benefit to jumping into these communal pools that you guys have already set up. But people can modularize it to such a point where if they just want to, let's say, take 25% profit and they want to compound the rest, they can do that, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, this is kind of where the real magic happens. We've actually been working on these vaults. We're in our V3 now. It's been over 2 years probably since we initially started. And there's still teams to this day trying to emulate and do the same thing. It's like really complex math that has to happen with like hundreds of different contracts that store the data and move the tokens around in a safe safe way. But yeah, the ability to select the assets up front and then say, okay, I like these assets, but I just don't want to compound these forever, right? I'd like more ETH in my portfolio, or I'd like more BTC, or you know what, I'm kind of risk off. I just want like stable coins. Just give me a USDC type of stable coin ETF. And so yeah, of course you can. There's hundreds of different options for published vaults, but like I said, the real kind of modularity, the simplicity in that is like you could just look in your wallet and say, okay, I have this, and this, and I want to take this much in profit, and within a matter of like less than a minute, you can go and create that exact formula, that vault,
Right.
which you then own now, and it does it all for you. And then if you want to take it a step further, you can actually publish that vault, which in the process it you relinquish ownership of that contract so that other people can then join safely, of course, so that none of those allocations can be changed at that point. But then also at that point, you can when other people join, now you're sharing in the harvest fee, in the gas costs and the harvest stuff like that, which also reduces your overall cost.
Right. So yeah, so people can create their own. They can also, I think it's 1%. Do they get from the harvest fee? It's 1% just from the harvest fee that they get if they publish it and other people join their vaults, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's marginal to an extent, but it's a nice little kickback, and it's kind of introduces a little bit of gamification, a social aspect. We found a lot of times, like we have several like DAO treasuries projects will come in and they'll say this is it's easily managed. They can share it with their community, or like different little trading groups will say, okay, I'm this is a strategy that I've come up with. Ask your friends to come in. So it makes it easier for maybe crypto curious people that that are just kind of getting in. Maybe you want exposure to all these different things, but like I mean, we've all been there. The first time you went to go try to create an LP and stake it is daunting. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if you
It
trust
is.
somebody and you want to just follow their strategy, you don't have to do anything. You just have to get ETH in your wallet on any chain basically, and just deposit it.
I want to circle back in a minute to the idea of creating your own vault and why it's actually beneficial to jump into some of these, especially as an individual. And then maybe AJ, I'm going to bring you in to talk about what ideas you may be playing around with in terms of encouraging people to find projects, influencers, and big spaces to start looking at these vaults as a way of teaming up, having some fun competition with others to see how well they can perform, etc. But before we get to that, Jake, in terms of getting into this, in terms of actually putting money in, if you want to get into one of these vaults and there's 3 tokens or 2 tokens that you're looking at that you like the look of, or 2 or 3 pairs, I should say, and you want to invest, how easy is it? So what would I be doing if I wanted to get into this?
Yeah, so there's 2 ways. The easiest way would just be to create the vault or find a vault that already exists, right? And like I said, there's multiple different zapping options. So every vault, pretty much every single vault has a standard whatever the native token is. So like on Pulse, there'll be PLS you can deposit, ETH, SDI, like a whole number of tokens. Basically, just get to one of those tokens and you just press deposit. You just figure out how much you want to invest, and it goes through and just buys exactly how much it needs to match those allocations. Which also, side note, is time, not only a time saver but also saves money too. If you've ever been on maybe a normal Dex where you're trying to create this LP, but you need the right allocations. Like you got to go through and make like 3 or 4 transactions to try to get just enough
Right.
ETH for just enough USDC. And then you have a little bit of balance left. You got to like burn that, or trade that back for ETH. So that's the easiest route. Just one click, you find something you like and you just deposit. Another real cool feature that we introduced in our latest iteration is asset deposit, right? So again, if you're already in a farm, right? Let's say you're already farming on SparkSwap, and you have two farms that you're in, but you'd like to move to the vaults. You don't want to maybe break those assets up. You don't want to incur the impermanent loss. So rather than having to break those and sell and then zap in, you can just go right to the vault or create a vault with those exact allocations, and you can just actually multi-asset deposit. So you can just literally withdraw from the farm, and then redeposit, through the vaults,
Right.
just the LP tokens, and you get the same effect.
One of the questions I have for you is, I noticed when I was trying to get in the first time, and I mean, my goodness, the traffic was so much when you guys first launched, that I struggled for the first couple of hours to get into the vaults. I noticed that different tokens would suddenly give you a different swap fee and price impact total percentage. Do you have anything in place that tells people where the smallest amount is, so that they can save perhaps a few percent as they're trying to get into one of these vaults?
Yeah, so it's a tricky one. We do actually have several safeguards in place. We have our own like kind of custom routing system that will always find the best route for you,
Mhm.
if you're zapping in, that is, right? So we're always going to do the best we can to find you the best route. That specific example, right, on a real busy day, right? I think some of those issues were. It's got to read this data, right? And also PulseChain is not some of the infrastructure is still kind of, being coming to light and being built out. So I think probably what you're experiencing there was just price volatility, basically, in price, right?
Right.
These kind of big spikes. We do also have some safeguards as far as if it gets to a certain point, it'll stop you and say, "Do you actually want to do this?" Right? And then the third part, we have you probably doesn't happen too often, but when it does, you'll thank me for it. We have a special oracle that reads all the prices from the time you kind of click the button to deposit to the point where it's executed, so that if there happens to be a sandwich bot or something that comes in between you, it'll actually stop you out and just kick back the original asset, so that you don't get fully wrecked in the
Okay.
process. Yeah.
Great. I mean, you've got a lot of features that are there to protect people. And then, of course, one of the things that AJ has already mentioned are the ETFs and how you can take your profit. And I know it's one of those things that is a great way for people to, and as you've said it, everybody wants to get into those blue chips, and you guys allow for that. Can you speak a little bit on what these ETFs are, what it means for them when they're taking profit, for example? And then I want to kind of deep dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. Even myself, I mean, I love holding blue chips, but it's really hard to walk away from nice APRs, right? And if you again, if you don't have a plan and you're just doing this kind of off the cuff, you have to make these decisions kind of in mid swing. Whereas, with the vaults, you can keep the entirety of your portfolio earning for you the whole time. But you set whatever profit level you want, right? And this can be different for every vault, right? So there's some, I'll admit, I'm in some degen plays, some meme LPs, right, that are paying crazy APRs, right?
Right.
With those, sometimes you maybe want to select a little bit more take profit, because you don't know what the underlying asset's going to do over time. So maybe you want to get more blue chips out up front. Where others, stable pairs, or projects that you're in for the long haul, you maybe want to compound a little more on those. But ultimately, what you get at the end, whatever allocation you decide to pull out, it's basically a basket of blue chip tokens. In fact, we use a lot of the balancer, the BMath libraries for some of this stuff.
Mhm.
So like the math has kind of been tested and tried and true. But unlike like a balancer pool, which is an LP, balancer pools do have less impermanent loss because of this balancing formula. The ETFs are just like a simple basket of tokens, right? So again, like I mentioned, if it's two tokens, and if it's ETH and BTC, or like the SparkSwap example is good. That we have several that are a little bit of PLS, a little bit of Spark token, and a little bit of DAI, let's say. It's just those three tokens that are sitting in a contract. So you get zero impermanent loss. And those tokens are always waiting there for you. You can go at any time. You can go burn. Essentially you get a receipt token for your share of those tokens inside the contract. And what
Right.
happens is you can accumulate. You can let them grow. Like I said, over time, because of the auto balancing inside, it causes this forced appreciation, which essentially means if you're trying to hold those three tokens anyway, being inside the ETF will always earn you more money than if you were outside the ETF. But when you're ready to sell, all you do is go to the ETF section. You can burn. Basically, you relinquish your receipt token. You burn it so that they can't be redeemed by anyone else. And then you can either zap out. You want more Spark. You want more PLS. You just get that directly. Or you can actually use the multi-asset withdrawal feature, and you can actually just take those underlying assets. So you can actually get those three assets right back to your wallet.
One of the things that I was talking to David about before this particular CEE is that a lot of people will sit on the sidelines waiting for that perfect entry, maybe the pullback that everyone anticipated in Bitcoin, for example, that hasn't happened yet. So it's going higher and higher and higher. And this seems to be a very good way of slowly DCAing into some of the favorite blue chips that you like, especially the ones that you guys have, Wrapped ETH, for example. And ensuring that your money is not just working for you, but it's also being put into some of those chips you like. Again, is that I assume that was part of your thinking, and how much of those chips are you going to try and expand into and bring in as you guys grow?
Yeah, you know what? This is impactful for me specifically, even because again, I come from a TradFi trading background. So when I first got into crypto, I was trying to do it all. I was doing the most out there. And crypto doesn't really act like we all know it's more volatile. It doesn't act like normal markets. And I gotta be honest, it actually these vaults actually saved my bull run. Because I called a good bottom, but I sold too early, thinking I was trying to be smart, thinking I was going to go get it lower. But
Right.
at a certain point, right, the market keeps going up, and if I was just trading on my own, I would still be waiting for this dip. You know what I mean? And with the vaults, it just made it too easy because I'm always earning those blue chips. So I just started putting in, averaging in, and just basically letting the take profit do the work for me.
AJ, it's obviously a powerful tool for anybody that is wanting to jump in, and it's fantastic for SparkSwap. Why do you think more people don't jump into these kind of things? And from a marketing standpoint, what are you going to go? Well, what are you going to try and do to perhaps encourage more people to start looking at these?
Yeah, no doubt, MadHatter. I mean, that is the struggle that every crypto project has, and honestly, I think on the surface that it's just a matter of education, and that's what we excel at. So I think it's only a matter of time before we're able to get the word out and really show that these vaults are not as complicated as they appear, and we have every bit of infrastructure in place to make it as easy as possible. Again, the zapping, not even needing to know how to create an LP. That's the first step. And then the second step is really, scaling that. So we actually just launched a really big initiative this week, and it's happening even right now, where we're able to do boosted vaults, where we take just a flat PLS. Again, most of the vault is about $1,000 or more of just PLS that is actually injected into the compounding, which is pure profit on top of the rewards that you're getting anyway. And so by highlighting some of these vaults with the boosted APY, it is a billboard for people to get involved. And this week and it's for the next 2 weeks. Um, we're boosting Pulse X vaults, and people say, "Well, why are you boosting Pulse X vaults when this is SparkSwap?" Well, the beautiful part about the vaults is that they are a great product market fit for Pulse as a whole, and we reap the benefits as a protocol, i.e. Spark, no matter what farm or vault you're in. And so we really, that at the end of the day, just like our deck survives on volume, the vaults survive on TVL. So the more TVL that we can jam in the vaults, the better for everybody. And it's a major again product market fit for PulseX users that they don't. A lot of PulseX users, they don't even know auto compounders are a thing. Like they've never
Right.
even heard of Beefy. They're brand new. Pulse is their first experience. So when we show them the vault, they think that it's voodoo magic, which is awesome, and it's a great sell for us. And it's really just a matter of getting it in front of all the PulseX bros, so to speak, to
Right.
start using it. And even if they're not bullish on Spark, again, the ETF, all the ETFs for PulseX, they include Spark in them. But even if they don't really want to hold that, they can just burn it for more Pulse or more ink, or whatever token they want. Which again, it's still a net positive effect on our ecosystem. So yeah, that's the plan right now, is to continue to scale not only to our community but outside of our community as well.
Right.
Not only that, too, the ETFs are actually specifically routed through SparkSwap as well. So, basically all that profit is being swapped through the SparkSwap router, which is more protocol revenue.
Of course. And of course, that's where the sparkler is really going to take flight, especially as a bull run happens. And of course, one of the things that we spoke about last time, AJ, and I've started to see the trickle of that now start happen, is that it's almost like unlocking a new feature that some of these Pulse influencers wanted to have X amount of time that you guys were around with no downtime, perhaps no rugs. They wanted to know that you were here to do the right thing, and it was a product that was going to work, and you guys weren't just going to grab a bag and disappear. And those are starting to unlock now. So you're getting now more eyes, especially within Pulse itself. And I imagine that the AMAs that you do and the rounds that you do in discussions with those people is only going to grow. Of course, it gives you a wider scope of people to look at you.
Yeah, absolutely, Mad Hatter. And again, I mean, it is about building that reputation. Obviously, in our own protocols, we've had years of track record, but the Pulse guys, we've only been around on Pulse for about 6 months, not even. So they are skeptical, and rightly so. I mean, we do everything we can. Again, we had the original Dex audited, and obviously all the vaults, and Jake can go into that too. All the vaults are heavily audited, and even with the upcoming perps platform, like everything that we're doing is not only audited but also has to stand the test of time. The bridge as well, obviously, that's a major attack vector, and we do everything we can to keep it safe. But yeah, to your point, all the Pulse influencers are finally starting to take hold or take, heed what we're saying, and that has again a proportional scaling effect. I mean, we've seen bridge volume increase literally month over month over month. More people talking about Spark and SparkSwap, and then yeah, now with the I mean, again, to put again numbers on it, as you know, I'm a numbers guy. Just by launching the incentivized vaults on PulseX, we onboarded about $300,000 within the first 24 hours. So, and overall, since we initiated that marketing, it's brought in an additional almost 500K. So we grew the vaults by about 25% in a matter of days, just because of who we're targeting.
Which is huge.
If you don't mind,
Sorry,
For sure.
I'll jump in real quick just to
Yeah.
affirm what AJ said. So the vaults themselves actually have been there's several audits. The two big ones were from Certec and Halborn, both top tier agencies, as I'm sure you guys have heard. If you don't mind, I'll drop a little alpha, AJ. You mentioned the perps, which are launched in the very near future. We actually just onboarded Hacken for that audit. And if
Right.
you guys aren't familiar with Hacken, like these guys are like the top, the upper echelon. They're about as good as it gets in the space. So we'll have the Hacken audit ready for the perps launch. Honestly, I'd be surprised if Hacken has done any audits on on PulseChain at this point. So that might even be a first.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's super bullish. And again, we love him or hate him, Richard Hart does have everybody's best interest in mind. Again, aside from the sacrifice, some people may say differently. But my point is that he doesn't promote any protocol or any third-party app without a top tier audit. Even the track record again that you spoke about, MadHatter, that we have been up and live for months and months now with no issues. I mean, he is very very careful with all that because the last thing he ever wants to do is promote a product that has third party risk to it, and
Right.
so we do everything we can to get rid of all the third party risk and everything that we do.
Great, thank you. We mentioned boosted vaults, and if I'm somebody who likes the gamification element and I like to jump around and see where I can get most gains, if I want to jump from a vault that I'm already in into one of these boosted vaults, is that a possibility, Jake?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, you can always just withdraw and re-enter. We actually have a really unique another unique feature. It's a migration tool that you can actually just move from one vault to the next with like a single button click. In fact, we actually partnered with Synapse a while back for cross-chain migrations, even where you can move your assets between vaults on different chains, even. At the moment, you won't see that on the UI just yet. Like kind of back to one of your earlier points with the protecting, funds on deposit. Like I said, we just introduced this new universal routing system uh,
Hmm.
probably I don't know, a month or two ago, and we wanted to do some extra testing on the migration stuff to make sure that that routing was applied correctly. But ultimately, yeah, we'll have that feature on back very very soon. But of course, you can always use the simple asset withdraw to just select as much or as little as you'd like. Just withdraw the LPs. It won't break them for you. No, you won't suffer that impermanent loss. And then you can just use the asset deposit feature again to jump into one of those boosted vaults.
Great.
For sure. And if you do that, just to add to that, Matt Hatter, sorry, brother, that if you do the actual asset withdrawal rather than zapping in and out, there is really zero risk of any, not only impermanent loss, but none of the vaults have fees associated with them either, the in and out fees. So yeah, those are all again super important when it comes to being competitive in the market.
It also just allows people to take opportunities when they arise. One of the things I think a lot of people get frustrated with in this space is if they make a decision and they're sitting somewhere and then a week later something else comes out where perhaps they would have got a bit more gains. This actually allows them to take advantage and then head back to the original vault if they wanted.
You can also do that with the ETFs as well. So it's nice little surprise if something pops up and you look back at, oh, I actually do have $1,000 sitting here in ETF profits. They're just blue chips. They're not going to hurt anybody if it sells them. You know, let's maybe cash those in and try another vault and double up on your profits.
Right. I think one of the things, AJ, I heard you say in one of the AMAs that you had is that the independence is obviously of the utmost importance to you, and everything that you're building out at the moment appears to be very much independence driven. It's giving people the independence to do things, and one of the things that allows for that is that you can create your own vaults. Can we speak a little bit on what the benefit would be to create your own vault? I know we did a tiny bit a little bit earlier on, but I mean, you've got communal vaults that obviously you're going to encourage people to use. And then, AJ, are you going to perhaps explore the idea of some gamification with bigger communities, perhaps YouTubers with large followings and or projects that you encourage to come in, create your own vault, see how many people you can get in there, and start raking in that 1%?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll take the beginning of this, and then Jay can actually add to it. But yeah, I mean, that is also part of this PulseX initiative, and another bit of alpha too, which we haven't even really talked about. But we're able to add pretty much any farm that number one doesn't have fees associated with the token, and number two, obviously there has to be a yield token that's distributed. So there's many other, yield farms or other sort of farming projects that we can absolutely add to the vaults. Again, there is a bit of a due diligence process with that. Obviously, we're not going to be adding, rug projects or stuff that doesn't have liquidity or a track record. But that opens up the door to exactly what you said, MadHatter. It not only does it add a gamification element, but it also adds this bit of, referral reward FOMO that we see all the big, influencers participate in, but without the downside, because typically if there's a referral reward, the money has to come from somewhere. And Jake mentioned it a little bit earlier, the 1% of fees is pretty marginal, but that would never impact the users or the investors. But if you get enough TVL into one of those vaults, that 1% can really add up for sure. So it mitigates a ton of risk that we usually see with the gamification and referral reward system, and it really is a great way, influencers to get their communities behind it. And we will absolutely look into, the boosted vaults accomplish this from a protocol level, but we absolutely will run different competitions, to see what vault has the most growth, within a 24-hour period. All that is definitely part of our marketing sprints, moving forward. But yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you want to add to that, Jake.
I guess I got two attachments to that. I guess to kind of answer your first question, we love and encourage people to play around with the creation feature. It's one of the things that I think makes us really strong is this communal aspect where anybody can go create a vault. You're not beholden on somebody else or even ourselves to create something for you. You can go do it. The only caveat is that sometimes people fragment their positions. So a vault that it may have, if a vault is similar, if you see something that's similar to what you like, you may be better off just joining that vault as opposed to putting your own vault together with like $200 because you're going to incur all those harvest fees yourself, as opposed to splitting it with other people in the community.
Right.
Actually, on Pulse, it's funny, on Pulse the gas is so cheap that I think honestly like something like it's less than $100. I think I haven't seen any that's been like more than $100 to compound daily. We have metrics in place to like compound at optimal times, right? And we have a kind of an estimator that'll say, you need to put this much in the vault to make it compound at least once daily. And actually, with the Pulse vaults, we don't have that at all. But also, I'll give you a little more alpha too. We're actually working on a new feature that kind of works with the debank API, and
Right.
soon, hopefully, you'll be able to essentially use this tool that can just basically scan your wallet. It'll tell you what positions that you're in right now, actively in, that we also offer in the vault. And essentially with like one click, it'll create that same vault for you, and then help you just deposit those assets right from the position that you're currently in right into a vault. It'll manage it all for you.
Okay, I'm just trying to excuse my silence because I'm trying to get my head around what that means for people that just want to input their wallet into. Okay, that would be huge.
We're not taking the keys or anything. I'm just like
No.
you just like if you look at wallet up on DeBank, right? Like let's say you're on Spark, right? And you have 3 different farms, right? But rather than going into and creating your own and saying, okay, I have about $500 in this one, I have $1,000 in this one, it'll just read your wallet for you and say you have $512.02 in this vault. You have $1,000 and 50, $1,050 in this one, and so on and so forth, and it'll just create that vault for you. You'll have to obviously instigate it and approve it and create it yourself, like press the buttons, but
Right.
it'll predefine all those allocations for you, kind of taking the guesswork out, and then essentially just use the contract to say, okay, one click to withdraw, one click to withdraw, one click, just to remove from the farms, and then okay, now just deposit. You know what I mean?
Which would be huge for people, especially for people that, you always get the question, how do I get my mum, my dad, my grandma, my grandpa to be able to use this? And I think making it as simple as possible. And sometimes the best ideas are the most simple, because what you're describing is such a simple concept, but obviously not simple to implement at the back end. But
For sure.
being able to grab those ideas and just implement them into what you guys are doing here is just going to keep making you stronger and stronger. I mean, that's going to be very
Yeah.
bullish if that comes out.
Yeah, no doubt, matter. And again, just to kind of put that into perspective, not only is it about making the onboarding easier, like you said, but it's almost the other aspect is a lot of people don't even know they own the asset for the same reason. Again, as
Right.
another analogy would be holding, just holding ETH in your wallet. 90% or 99% of the population thinks that's what crypto is, just buying an asset and holding it. Well, this tool will actually tell you, hey, you have this LP. Yes, it's earning for you, but you could be earning even more in our vault. And here is how you do it. And I think
Exactly.
that is extremely powerful because it not only does it make it easy to onboard, but the value prop is there as well. It's like,
Right.
why wouldn't you do it? It's a no-brainer for sure.
How
Well,
might something like that impact people that are interested in airdrops on a mainnet that has staking involved? Live staking, is that something also that you guys consider? And do you say, well, come to us, and if there are airdrops that are going to be happening on chain that we happen to have vaults with, because we're constantly auto compounding, there should be some kind of movement that's happening, which, if it's a point system, is going to gain you more points, for example.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
that's
yeah. Go
smart.
ahead, Jake. That's a great question. Yeah, I love that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know. I'm sure
no,
you've thought about that, Jake. But yeah,
I
go ahead, bro.
I have, man. I'm respect for even having that thought, my man, because it's definitely come up a few times. To be yeah, to be honest, it's something that's been on our radar. We haven't really had a ton of time to really dig into it, but it could, yeah, we're definitely thinking about it. It could be super powerful because, in theory, you could just have like an airdrop vault where,
Right.
or it could be a special tag like these vaults are qualifiers for airdrops. There's a little bit of there's some technical challenges because it's some technically the vault contract holds, or they're um, the vault contracts are managing your position for you basically. But yeah, it's definitely something we're looking at, man. That's a great question.
I mean, that could be massive. And then I suppose if you get some kind of Quest platform like Azealia or Galaxy that then works with you as well,
Mhm.
you really are starting to tackle all the corners of this space that people love to dive into. And we spoke at the beginning on gamification. That falls very much into this. I think that would be something that people would be highly interested in.
Yeah, well, like I said, we come Q2, we're gonna be twiddling our thumbs. We need some more ideas, so that's a,
Right.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
definitely something we might move into.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, and even that, I mean, I'm sure we can even tease, the V33 models. I mean, there's a ton of room for growth, utilizing the vault and the vault tech, to the ever expanding DeFi landscape for sure.
I
Also,
am. Oh,
no,
go on.
sorry. I'll also note too, one of the big upgrades that we implemented from our V2 model to our V3 is the entire system is modular now. The biggest challenge we actually had with V2 was that it was kind of just this kind of spaghetti web of like all these contracts that had to work together. And unfortunately, we probably should have seen this coming, but the V2 dexes, the pancake swaps, kind of got overrun by the V3 stuffs, right? So and we were kind of interoperable, so we had to build a different system for that. But in order to avoid that in the future, AJ mentioned the V33 dexes. Essentially there's like a core set of contracts, and then each different type of dex. The V33, we have an actual liquidity manager, an ALM for those. We have a V2 model. We have a V33 module. So we can just kind of plug and play and just build one module and plug it into the system. And so we're ready for whatever the future may come.
You guys are really building something incredible, and like I said, I think we've gone past the stage now, AJ, of trying to find holes and trying to pick out things. And each time you come in, I'm going to continue to try and find the hardest question I can, but it's becoming increasingly more difficult. I think now it's just a case of getting the word out there, getting these kind of things shared. And I know with the Dex Finance, if you're in a vault, if anybody's interested in sharing, at the bottom, you guys also have a feature where you can share those vaults on any of the social media platforms. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh,
Go
you
ahead,
take this
Jake.
one.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh
No,
no, yeah,
yeah, I was just gonna say no. Sorry, bro.
that's you.
We're like an old married couple. We finish each other's sentences. So yeah, but yeah, we again, Dex, the original tech, Jake is always thinking on not only from a yield perspective, but also from a marketing perspective. And admittedly, I've been able to kind of run with that, which is again why this partnership and now again essentially merger has been so successful. But yeah, I mean there's a ton of ways to even just automatically tweet or X. I don't know. Do we still say tweet? I don't know, man. I guess tweet your vault on and the majority of the vaults that have the most PVL are actually vaults that we created initially, and so the Spark Treasury actually gets that 1% volume. Or referral fee basically, and that again goes right into the protocol fees overall. But yeah, you can actually tweet the vault itself, and it will automatically have a link directly into that vault and tag not only SparkSwap but Dex Finance in that Twitter post all in one. So just like we automate the yield portion, we try to automate all the marketing as well. So yeah, I would say if any of you are in those vaults, even a once a week, retweet of your favorite vault would be very, very helpful for sure.
Hey, you know what? I'll also say, MadHatter, don't feel bad if you can't find any holes. I have the advantage of crowdsourcing for the past year. I've been the V2. I'll admit it. We had plenty of support tickets that I just kept saving and saving, and then when V3 came around, my the dev team was going to kill me because I gave them like a 10-page list of support ticket functions that needed to be in V3. So
Right.
that was the advantage, the advantage we had, really just finding all those pain points and, making everything as smooth and frictionless as possible.
Which I love. I think the fact that you guys are going above and beyond to try and find those pain points, and I love that you call them pain points. I've heard you say that several times now because I've listened to a lot of your AMAs, and I love that you refer to them as pain points because they're just
Obviously,
points that
having
are going to
canceled too
be
many support tickets, it's
right.
painful.
Yeah, I, I can imagine you driving people crazy by saying, "Look, all of these points we've got to plug." So I'm aware that I've had you guys just over an hour. I'll finish off with this. I'd like to ask you both the same question. Jake, I'm going to start with yourself. And it doesn't matter how mundane or silly it might seem, it could be something we've already discussed at length. But what is your favorite part of the vaults? Do you have any particular feature, um, again, regardless of how big or small it is, that you look at and think, actually, that's my favorite? I really enjoy the fact that we've implemented that.
Yeah, as like AJ said, it's my baby. So I really find a lot of joy and there's just so many good things about it. But at the end of the day, there was the first thing I said, the ease of use. As someone who's very heavily in DeFi, and I have a lot of different kind of positions, and I follow a lot of different narratives and tokens. And especially as a project owner, right? I'm on a daily basis, I have to execute like you know, a dozen transactions and monitor different positions and treasuries and stuff. Um, it's like it saves me from having to just click, make transactions all day long, and just being able to have some a little bit of my life back and be able to focus on other areas, just by having everything auto managed for me. Of course, it's great that it not only manages it, but it also does it in like the most efficient, impactful way possible and taking profit. But like I said, just at the core, I would be happy with half the features we had, just to have it managed and doing what it's doing its thing.
Right, great, thank you. AJ, how about yourself? Is there any particular feature that you look at and think, that's my favorite?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, again, to piggyback on what Jake said, I think and this is personally speaking, Jake and I have been in crypto a long time. We built some massive portfolios, and even for me, I know there's a really awesome quote. I think it was from John D. MacArthur, but it may have been from somebody else before him. But essentially, it was he was so rich that he could buy anything but time. And I love that analogy because that, as you become more and more engrossed in DeFi, we don't have time to be managing portfolios and, compounding on our own. And even if you're a smaller guy, maybe you only have $100 in crypto. The economic efficiency that these vaults provide are groundbreaking, man. And that I think is so powerful because whether you're a minnow or a whale, these vaults have true product market fit and again value, even over and above and beyond any fees that we collect, just to keep the lights on. So that's what I'm super bullish on, and it makes our job easier in terms of sales or getting people interested because it is a better mousetrap. I know I like to use that analogy too, but so yeah, I know it's kind of the same answer that Jake had, but I think that's really powerful. And really, for me, and more from a selfish perspective, and I touched on it a little bit earlier. I think what I'm most excited about is not only are these vaults incredibly powerful on their own, but the fact that we own the Dex and all the volume on Spark farms goes to again boosting the daily volume of SparkSwap. I mean that again is just so incredibly powerful because we're able to win on both sides without really again affecting users because at the end of the day, a fee is a fee and that comes out of your profit. But because of the synergies that we have, it's mitigated, 100%. So, we use the term win-win. It really is a win-win for both, users and the protocol.
Yeah, I'm in the vaults. I got to say, my favorite part of what it is that you guys have created here is that it's pleasing on the eye. And I know that sounds silly, maybe, but nothing is, even when the amount that you have is going to drop a tiny bit, your P&L comes down a little bit. It's not demonstrated in a way that is extreme. It's realistic. And then on top of that, everything else, just the color coding, the way it looks, is easy on the eye. That gives me a feeling of calm and faith in what it is that I'm looking at. Actually, it has a bit more of a mature look than a lot of others do at times, and I appreciate that, especially when it comes to the fact that I'm putting my money into this. So that, from my point of view, is something that I really enjoy.
I love
I mean,
that.
I
Yeah, well, and
yeah,
yeah, Jake can expand. I know we have a ton of UI upgrades, but I think psychologically, to your point, Matt Hatter, I mean, there's nothing better than watching your portfolio grow, and that
Mm.
again, through the auto compounding, even if the assets are volatile, statistically over time, because of the auto compounding, you will see your P&L and your overall value go up and to the right. And, psychologically, that's a great feeling, to see your money being put to work, and it really inspires you to even go heavier in the vault. So yeah, again, Jake, I'm sure you can expand. You've done countless hours of UI development too. So
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, I really appreciate that sentiment. It's absolutely not for a lack of trying. Um, you wouldn't believe how many different iterations we've gone through on front end.
Nice.
It seems like what you're seeing now, and even to this day, I still have ideas. We're still trying to perfect it, and it seems like it should be easy. If you've seen any other auto compounders, some of those do have maybe a little easier, easy the as soon as you see it, sometimes it can be over, a little daunting at times. But that's because we offer so much more. So it's not like we could have just, taking something from we didn't fork anything. This is like we're jamming like this extreme amount of features into this little tiny bit. And we've just gone back over and over and taken user feedback and really just tried to make it, as clean and as efficient as possible. Even today, in fact, if you haven't checked your vault yet today, we launched a new homepage with some kind of educational stuff to walk people through how to use them. You'll actually see on your performance metrics, we have new beta performance metrics that now also tracks not only your profit and your P&L, but also your yield accumulation over time. So we're always improving. We're always trying to do better, and
Yeah,
that's one of the things we focus on. I appreciate you noticing.
no, pleasure. I mean, it is noticeable, and it's clear that a lot of time and effort has been put into it, and that's exactly what you want from someone who's building something like this, and from a team that are trying to build and do things the right way. Is that you want time taken and not just something that is thrown together. So no, I very much appreciate it, and I had noticed the yield graph that was on there. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come out with next. I mean, there's a ton of ideas. I'm sure I could probably go on for another hour and a half just talking through all the things that you guys want to implement and could be implemented. And you're able to um, push the envelope a little more now that you guys have merged together, because not only do you have this symmetry with the way that you both work, but of course there's also now the reputation you each have in the space. And the fact that there is, and I say this every single time I get to speak to AJ, zero downtime is incredible. And the fact that you guys are building on that kind of foundation is just going to be massive for the future, I think.
for sure, brother. Well, and we appreciate all the love and support, Matt Hatter. Again, I hope that Jake will start being a again pun intended pillar here as well. As we continue to build together, he will be more and more visible publicly too. But that's a cool part. I mean, we complement each other. I've really filled the role in the marketing aspect, but Dex CEO Jakey and his entire team. I mean, they have the expertise that maybe I don't, and like you said, the manpower to actually pull it off. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll be doing another CEE about our Perps platform. That will be next in the pipeline. We're making major headway on that already. Again, brought to you by the incredible team with Dex Finance again, and this will be really because it'll be an industry first on Pulse and really continue to solidify the one-stop shop DeFi destination on Pulse for sure.
Right. Yeah,
I'll tell
I
you.
did. Oh, go on. Sorry, Jake. After you.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, AJ's right. We all have our lanes, and AJ does handle most of the marketing, but and of course, I'm a builder. I like to build. Of course, I don't mind an AMA here and there, but having a real conversation with someone who's actually interested in the product, and can understands it and wants to learn more about it, makes it a much more pleasurable experience than kind of some of the just the fluff and the hype sometimes. So I appreciate what you guys are doing here.
Thank you very much,
No
and
doubt.
thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a
Yeah.
really good conversation.
Totally. MadHatter and David have the utmost reputation of asking the right questions. So yeah, it's always a pleasure, man. And we could go on for another 2 hours because it is enjoyable, not having to just go over the same old that we do on a lot of the other AMAs and really do a deep dive, into the nuts and bolts of what we're doing for sure.
Well, gentlemen, on that note, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming in. Jake, I am absolutely going to insist that you come back. I've just seen one of the comments saying you're a good speaker, and they're not wrong. You're a very good speaker. It's been a really interesting conversation. And I can't wait to speak more on what AJ just mentioned in the bullish news. I recommend everyone jump into all of your spaces, and we'll drop the links for Dex Finance and SparkSwap in the community questions section so that they can take a look around and ask you guys some questions as and when there are some.
Absolutely. We'd
Perfect.
love to
Yeah.
come back.
No doubt. And we will. I'll stick around. And I know Jake will as well, with maybe some answers I can't. He's, again, the vault expert. But yeah, we'll hang out as usual in the community questions area. I know there were some really great questions we didn't have time to get to. So I'll personally respond to those as well.
Perfect. All right, gentlemen. Well, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much, and I look forward to doing it again soon.
Likewise.
Cheers.
Take care.